What's up, bro? Nah, I'm about to watch this Queen Charlotte thing. Yeah, I don't know who asked for a spinoff. Like, who needed this? Nah, I'll definitely let you know how it is. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. All right, bro. Nah, I'll hit you back. Peace. Allergies? All right, welcome to Taste Take. If you're new here, today I'm doing a spoiler-free review of the new Bridgerton spinoff, Queen Charlotte. If that's something you're into, hit that subscribe button for your boy. For my regular taste takers, go ahead and put this in your queue. See if you don't thank me later. Get it? I said put this in your queue. See if you don't thank me later. Q, C, Queen Charlotte. Never mind. All right, we got some background here. Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story, is the latest edition of the popular series adapted by those Julia Quinn novels. In Bridgerton season 1 and season 2, both of those were like the books, where like each of them was based on one of the Bridgerton kids. Like season 1 was based on Daphne and Simon, and season 2 based on Anthony and Kate. This Queen Charlotte thing is not season 3. That's a whole separate thing. That's gonna be centered around Penelope and Colin, and that's gonna come out sometime soon. There's no release date yet, but it's coming soon. Julia Quinn never wrote a book about Queen Charlotte. Apparently, from what I understand, Queen Charlotte's not even that big of a deal in the novels. But when the show came out, people were obsessed with Queen Charlotte. So they were like, all right, we gotta give her a spinoff. Boom, here goes our origin story. As you all probably know, Bridgerton is part of Shonda Rhimes' huge Netflix deal. So for season 1 and season 2, she was listed as the main executive producer. But this time around, she's actually the writer of all 6 episodes. That is a huge deal. Because you know, like if you executive produce something, like you could just put money and then they put your name on the thing. But she's like in it. And the director is a dude named Tom Berica, who she's been working with for a long ass time. So it's like all Shonda, all the time. So what's this all about? All right, let's get into the story. All right, plot time. Season 1 of Bridgerton came out on Christmas Day in 2020. And if you're anything like me, you're wondering 2 things. 1, how many more Zoom birthday parties am I gonna have to go to? And 2, how the hell did we get a black queen in the Regency era? In season 1 of Bridgerton, we meet Queen Charlotte pretty early on in the show, and we quickly realize that this ain't the Cinderella movie with Brandy in it. That was like legit colorblind casting. That's like when the color of your skin really don't matter and they don't really see it. It's kind of like Hamilton, where it's like, yeah, like George Washington is black, but they don't like see him as black. You know what I mean? Like in this show, it was like actual black and brown people with power and titles and land. But how did we get here? How did Bridgerton become so progressive? And that's what we learned in season 1, because Lady Danbury tells Simon the Duke, like, look, this all started with the Queen. When she got power, everything changed for us. She's been holding us down since day 1. So in this show, Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story, we get to meet a young Charlotte and find out just how this all came to be, while at the same time flashing forward to see what's going on with present day Bridgerton. All right, so here's the tea real quick, and I'm not doing spoilers, so just relax, okay? Okay, so check it. A young King George is just minding his business, ruling England, just macking the hoes and chilling. But he's got to find a wife, as one does. Not only to have a queen, but also to produce an heir to the throne. So the powers that be arranged for a young Charlotte to be summoned from her home country in Germany to come all the way to England for the first time in her life and marry the king, who of course she never met. She doesn't even know what he looks like. And it's not like you could just go creeping on their gram back then. This is like the real Love is Blind. Only like the women didn't have a choice. And that is messed up. So she's forced to marry him. And it turns out that in the beginning, he was very nice and very charming. So she's like, you know what? Maybe I can make this work. And don't forget, she's like black. No one of her kind has ever been titled before. And in the show, they don't say black or like race or anything like that. They just say like your kind or our kind. It's very interesting. But the royal family did this intentionally. They wanted to see what would happen if you give the other kind titles and land and power. kind of like in Trading Places when Randolph and Mortimer made that bet to see if like a black person could like take over and like be civilized if they just take them out the... Anyway, Charlotte and George get married, and all of a sudden, George goes cold. He isn't very nice anymore. It's kind of like if you get recruited to play like a sport at one of those fancy colleges, and they bring you all over and they put your name in the rafters and stuff and on the Jumbotron, and they're like, this could all be yours. And then like when you commit, they treat you like trash and you gotta carry everybody's bags. It's kind of like that. But Charlotte wasn't having it. It's not like she was just content coming all the way to England, getting a title, becoming queen, and just chilling without her husband. No, like she came for love and marriage, like for real, for real. But George didn't understand why she was so upset. He was like, why you being weird? And she's like, why you being weird to me? So the majority of the season is spent unpacking a few key themes. A new bride learning to love a husband that she just met, a young queen trying to get acclimated into a world that was never designed for people like her, and just how this great experiment affected the rest of the town and shaped how we got to present day Bridgerton. And now we got a series. So what's my take? Yeah, this show had no business being this good. Of course, I never read any of the books. I never even heard of it. And if we're being honest, I never watched one of Shonda Rhimes' shows. And I just have to live in that truth. But when season 1 of Bridgerton came out, I was shocked at how much I liked it. I was like, damn, like, am I into Regency pieces now? Am I like a Victorian lover? Now, when season 2 came out, we did lose a lot of the steam that we came to know and love in season 1. But even still, I was like, it's a damn good story, and I like Kate, so it was still good. Queen Charlotte is better than both of them. I didn't think I needed a spinoff. I didn't really want a spinoff, and I'm okay with admitting that I was wrong. And if by any chance you watched my season 2 review of Bridgerton, or like just heard me like 2 minutes ago, I said that we lost a lot of the steam from season 1. It was just the steamometer, it just was down. It was like, it's down. It was kind of like they was gonna show it at church. I'm happy to report that the steam is officially back in Queen Charlotte. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. But if you wanna see King George butt cheek, also making a very welcome return is like, when they take that modern music and they put that classical spin on it? Yeah, it's back. And when you get to the song in the last episode, allergies. They gonna start flaring up. That's all I can say. All right. I'm all over the place. Let's just start with the performances, because India Amatifio is gonna be who everyone's talking about. She's only 21 years old, of course, from the UK, and this is her biggest role to date. And you just can't help but to root for her from the beginning to the end. Like I said, she doesn't care what riches and power come from being queen. She's like, nah, I don't wanna marry this dude. He's a stranger. Then after her brother Adolphus reminds her like, this is bigger than you. You can change how things are. She's still like, all right, fine. But I wanna know who I'm marrying. What does he like? How does he look? Is he a kind person? And then when she's married, she doesn't just accept King George being weird and distant. She's like, nah. I didn't come all the way to England to not only sleep in separate beds from my husband, but separate houses? What we won't do. It's just really cool to see her like transform from this 17-year-old kid who they just uprooted from Germany, and then by the end of it, like a worthy queen. The one kind of negative I'll say is that for the life of me, I couldn't connect the present day Queen Charlotte with young Charlotte. Because like we all know Queen Charlotte from season 1 and season 2, but like when you see this young girl, you're like, how did she turn into her? And you do get like flashes of it, especially at the end. But besides that, I don't really have any negatives. But that ending, ugh. Anyway, it ain't just young Charlotte. There's so many nice performances and storylines. Take young King George, for example. He's played by Corey Malcrease. This young king, compared to the Mad King we see in season 1 and season 2, you would have never thought that this dude who's walking around just saying crazy stuff and looking like he's lost his mind, which he did, like you would never think he had like this interesting of a backstory. Like just watching this dude fight these battles, mostly with himself, it's just heavy. The kid is basically playing 2 parts. Then you got Lady Danbury, who before she was Lady Danbury was just Agatha Danbury. She's played by Arsema Thomas, and listen, this girl just finished acting school. This was her first role. And what does she do with it? She eats. That's what she does. The first time you see her on camera, you would think she was getting by this old creepy guy. You're like, what the hell even is this? I don't want to say the word on YouTube. They get a little what, but it rhymes with shaped. Anyway, but yeah, no, that was her freaking husband, Lord Danbury. This woman, Agatha Danbury, was arranged to be married to this dude when she was 3 years old. Her whole life has been just preparing to be his wife. It's crazy. And I hated that guy. But Shonda Rhimes is going to Shonda Rhyme, because no one in the show is exactly how they seem. Even the people we think we're supposed to hate are deep and nuanced. I don't even use words like nuance. Shonda Rhimes got me using big words, and I feel uncomfortable. But it's true, because with Lord Danbury, he's old, he's creepy, he's selfish. She still sees him as a black man who just wants to feel equal, and that's what motivates him. He doesn't treat her great, but for some reason, she finds happiness in his joy when things start to turn around for black people. Even though he don't give her no credit. Again, he's way older than her, so she could probably only imagine what it was like for him growing up. And now, to have a title, it's nice. It's the same thing with King George's mom, Princess Augusta. Now, of course, she had a hand in this great experiment. But when young Charlotte pulls up, she's still she is very dark. So we're all like, what in the tarnation? You better watch your tone, lady. And like I said, she's part of the reason why black people have their land and their titles. But she's still cautious, because when Charlotte pulls up and starts challenging the status quo, she's like, oh, wait, we got a certain way we do things around here. It was very much giving Princess Diana and Meghan Markle, the Duchess. Is Meghan Markle still a Duchess? Can't believe you gave that up. Because she didn't know they were gonna be mean to her. You guys didn't tell her that they were gonna be mean to her? Okay. I'm just playing, Meghan Markle. You know I love you. Anyway, at the end of the day, the princess holds no power over the king. He just happens to be her son, and she just wants what's best for him. And that is also very nice. Then what we get from Violet Bridgerton. Of course, we've seen her a lot in season 1 and season 2. It's her kids that's running around trying to find love. But here we get to see her teenage self. And this is one of the nicest characters in the whole show. Man, young Violet, just so progressive. She was like a little RBG, before her time, man. She was just good. She's played by a girl named Connie Jenkins-Greig. And I just gotta give her a shout out, because, man, it was just love to see it, man. Back in the day, just being progressive, need some more soldiers like you. Is an ally. She's an ally. Then you got young Brimsley. He's played by a dude named Sam Clement, and he's got a complicated story. That's Charlotte's right-hand man. And these are all the people we've seen them in the present day Bridgerton, and he's an older dude, and he's always around Charlotte. But it's you never think these guys got backstories. Everybody got a backstory, man. There's just so many good performances. I just decided to take that time to highlight the younger cast version, the people that we've never seen before, but everyone that you've seen in the current day Bridgerton that's still on this show, they still do their thing. The older version of Charlotte is still fire. The older version of Lady Danbury is, of course, still fire. Lady Bridgerton, still fire. It's just good, man. There's so much happening in just 6 episodes, yet nothing feels rushed, and I still feel like I got a complete story. I'm gonna give Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story, 5 stars. My favorite of all things Bridgerton. Loved season 1, but it wasn't better than this. Season 2 was strong, but no. And I know for a fact, there ain't no way Penelope and Colin gonna bring the heat like this in season 3. But I will use this clip if they do. Anyway, Queen Charlotte just wins in all categories. The acting, the writing, the costumes, the makeup, the hair. A young black queen wearing her natural hair all over TV. A couple years ago, that was unheard of. And let me just say this now. The last episode in this series, episode 6, Crown Jewels, is one of the best episodes in Netflix history. Maybe even television history. Shonda Rhimes had her foot on my freaking neck. And that's all I can say about that. There's no spoilers, but it was on my neck. I just can't see Queen Charlotte being dethroned anytime soon. But what I can see is people complaining about it, because there's going to be some people that say, ugh, why do we have to see black people as royalty in the Regency era? This is reverse cultural appropriation, and it's not realistic. Then there's going to be some people that say, how the hell are we as black people supposed to ignore the fact that we were slaves during this time and pretend that we was kings and queens and dukes? It's not realistic. I just don't understand when we started looking at romance novels for historical accuracy. When did we start that? Yes, King George III and Queen Charlotte were real people, but this is fiction based on fact. Relax a little. One thing I will say though is that Julia Quinn didn't have no diversity in her books, which makes sense. Most books like this didn't. But now she gets to eat off this diverse world that Shonda Rhimes made. And something about that just don't sit right with my spirit. It is interesting though that this whole idea for Queen Charlotte being black came from the fact that some historians actually thought that the real Queen Charlotte actually was mixed race. Well, of course, there's no real proof of this, but she does have some Portuguese in her ancestry. And back in the 1100s, there were a lot of Arabs and Africans in Portugal. Now, I'm not saying she's black or mixed, but if you just, I'm just saying, if her chicken comes out a little extra seasoned, I might not question it. Who even knows if she's mixed race? How could we even be a judge of this? How do we know if she can come to the cookout? I would have to see how she responded when she heard this. What was I talking about? No, I'm just kidding. By now, scientists already know that the first humans came from Africa, so we're all brothers and sisters. So we can move on. Huh? Anyway, it's also widely accepted that King George III and Queen Charlotte were one of the few royal couples that were actually in love. Did you know that King George III bought Buckingham Palace for Queen Charlotte? Did you know that? What was the last thing that you bought for your girl? It's just something to think about. And since we're here, let me continue to go off the rails for a second, and I apologize in advance, but we got to talk about King George III, aka the Mad King that lost America. Or at least that's what they wanted us to think. Okay, right. As an American, King George III was our last king. But respectfully though, we wasn't having none of that. We was just trying to do our own thing over here. We just wanted our own little country. But respectfully though, we appreciate everything you gave us, but we was really off that. But our founding fathers was writing about King George like he was some tyrant that we had to break free from. And it turns out that most of that was propaganda. It's kind of like when you tell your country you're going to pull up in another country because they got a lot of dangerous weapons over there. And then when you go over there, you don't see those weapons. But you're like, well, since we're here, we're just going to take some stuff. And we're all like, hey, did you guys find those weapons? And we're like, huh? What are you talking about? But yeah, as it would turn out, King George III wasn't a tyrant. He was actually a pretty chill dude. All right, so back in 2015, Queen Elizabeth II released hundreds of thousands of these documents that King George wrote. It was the first time we got this inside look into his mind. For example, and like I said, King George III was the king when America was trying to get our independence from Great Britain. So he was literally presiding over the American Revolution. But check out this little excerpt. This is what he said. Watch this. Even after George Washington defeated King George's armies, the king referred to Washington as the greatest character of the age. And when George met John Adams, he told him, I'll be very frank with you. I was the last to consent to the separation between England and the colonies. But the separation having been made and having become inevitable, I have always said, and I say now, that I'll be the first to meet the friendship of the United States as an independent power. Aw, thanks, George. But let's not stop there. On top of that, unlike 41 of the 56 people that signed our beloved Declaration of Independence, King George III never owned, bought, or sold a slave a day in his life. And he signed the abolition of the slave trade in 1807. Bruh. Freaking cooked us. They even found a document that he wrote in the 1750s where he described the arguments in defense of slavery as too absurd to even refute. What the hell? It's no wonder he got himself a black queen. This dude is for the culture. Who knew, man? King George was cool and they dragged him for being crazy? It's a good thing in 2023 we don't stigmatize mental health. They called him all sorts of names back then and they tried the wildest things to try to fix him, but modern doctors say he probably suffered from manic depression or bipolar disorder. So yeah, Queen Charlotte is fiction based on fact, but the core love story between Charlotte and George isn't as far off as you think. This series just does a really good job of reminding us that not all love stories have a fairy tale ending, and that don't make it any less of a love story. Queen Charlotte is available right now exclusively on Netflix. As always, thanks for checking out Tate's Take. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like and that subscribe button. In the comments, What y'all think about Queen Charlotte? Is this the best Bridgerton thing? What did I watch? Did y'all cry? I didn't really cry, I was just for the video. But if I was gonna cry, episode 6. And then freaking Brimsley, Let's talk about the show, y'all. Thanks for the time. Peace.